Good evening and welcome to Monday the 5th of September's edition of the State of Scottish Football. I'm Greg Playfair. Joining me over the next hour to discuss all things Cinch Premiership and hopefully bring you as much enjoyment as a Marks and Spencer's picnic on a train to Dingwall are the two happy campers pictured on screen. So firstly, top left, let me introduce a man who is essential to a Monday night as soft rolls are to an Aberdonian on the ScotRail service. It's Mr. Graham Duffy. Graham, how you doing?
I'm good, mate, and I'm absolutely starving that you mentioned sausage rolls. I need food.
Oh, I think we've got Mark McGee 2.0 here. Hopefully not be too long. And as you can see, the bottom of the screen making his debut tonight and hoping it's not his last after endures my patter. It's Scott McPike. Scott, how you doing?
Not bad. Thanks very much for having me on, lads. It's a pleasure.
No, delighted to have you on. As always, folks, we're live on all the various platforms, so please do get involved by commenting, and we'll do our best to respond and react in the next hour to your well-natured banter, which I'm sure, given the game at the weekend, you will be in buoyant moods, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you want us to answer. Please also make sure you like and subscribe to all the State of Mind social media channels. I think it's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok. I think that's the full shebang, so get yourselves involved there. And like we usually do on a Monday, I'm not Glenn, but we will continue the usual format and we will review the 6 matches that took place this past Saturday in the top flight. And of course, there's only one place to start. We head through to the west coast of Scotland and start with that scintillating 0-0 draw between Motherwell and Dundee United. No, I'm kidding. We have to start, of course, at Celtic Park and review that sparkling performance for the Hoops. They defeated their Glasgow rivals Rangers by 4-0. Graham, I will start with you first. There's a lot to unpack here from the match, and we'll touch upon the game in detail. But firstly, I need to ask, did Celtic's performance on the day surprise you as much as it surprised Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's?
Yeah, I'll start with the positives. I thought Celtic were excellent from start to finish. You know when you go to Celtic Park, they're going to be playing with intensity, they're going to play with pace, and they're going to be up for it. And I thought right from the first minute they were. I wasn't surprised to where they started, but I did think when Kyogo went off injured early, I did wonder how that would impact them, and it had absolutely no effect at all. They were just absolutely brilliant. And I think as well, you've got to look at the fact that we talk about how quick Celtic played. Even the ball boys and ball girls all had the ball each. So as soon as the ball goes out of play, they get it back quickly. And Rangers, you would think, would have known that Celtic were going to play with that intensity, and they just didn't react. And again, as with last season, 3-0 up in the first half, and they were just electric. I mean, that Celtic squad, I've said this before, that Celtic team is very, very strong, and even the bench looked very strong. But, you know, if you look at the negative side of it, I mean, I'm a big fan of John McLaughlin. I think he's been a great goalkeeper, especially for Hearts when he was there. But he made 3 very poor mistakes. But you can't take away from how good Celtic were. You know, Lula Bada, outstanding. The finish from Jota for the second goal was absolutely magnificent. And I think one player that for me stood out was Matt O'Reilly. I thought he was brilliant the whole game. And just Rangers never reacted to a Celtic team that were just relentless.
Relentless is the word that Graham's using, Scott. I'll start with an easy question for yourself. What did you make of the performance of Celtic on Saturday?
I think it's hard to disagree with anything that you said there. I think the thing that stands out to me with this Celtic team is the squad's been completely transformed in a year, and you just see how cohesive they are. They all know what each other's doing. You see it for the goals. They know they're 2 steps ahead of everybody, and I think that's just brilliant management. I think the thing that stands out to me with this Celtic team is that, as you say, they're just so quick. Rangers are moaning about throw-ins and free kicks for the first 2 goals. By the time they finish moaning, Celtic's get the ball in the net, and that just shows you just how quick they are. They are just so eager to get that ball forward. There's just such a difference between the 2 sides in terms of Celtic want to get the ball forward. They know they're playing triangles. The third goal's a perfect summary of that. They're playing triangles. They get the ball through. Abada peels off. The ball's in the net. But they know each other's runs. They know where to be, and it's relentless. I think that's the word to describe it, because they're just so impressive. As you say, I thought O'Reilly was terrific. I've been so impressed with him since he came in. But they're just every area they've got 2 for every position. Like as you say, like Rangers are bringing on Scott Wright at half time to try and change the game, but Celtic 60 minutes in, they're 3-0 up, sitting comfortably, and they're bringing on Maeda, Moy, Turnbull, Giakoumakis obviously come on for Kyogo, but he would have come on later on. They're so stacked in terms of depth, and it just shows you just the really impressive recruitment and just the brilliant kind of the plan that Postecoglou has. And you can argue the Celtic have another way of playing. I don't know. That's obviously going to be different. We'll see that obviously with Champions League, but Plan A is working perfectly at the moment, and they're just so impressive.
Definitely have to agree with that. I've got some comments in as well. So Ian McIntosh says, we talk about individuals, but Celtic are a proper team now. Again, hard to disagree with that. And obviously we've got Dave watching from Let's Talk Football. What's happening with Hearts? We will get on to Hearts later on. Dave, we'll have to keep tuned in for that. But if you tuned in on Friday, Dave and I, we did say we were confident of a Celtic win, but certainly not in this manner. One of the things that we'll maybe start with team selection as well, and with yourself, Graham, but a bit of debate with some supporters maybe saying Maeda should start, others saying obviously Abada is on form, and obviously Abada did end up scoring. But going back to what you were saying there, Scott, about kind of the cohesive unity of the team, we've seen Kyogo going off, Graham, but Giakoumakis coming out is obviously a very, very different type of striker to Kyogo. Physically is the biggest call, but it didn't weaken Celtic in any way, did it? Even when obviously a lot of hearts and mouths when Kyogo went off injured. But I mean, it just shows the actual squad and style of play that Ange Postecoglou's put in at Celtic.
100%. When you make a change, especially that early, you obviously know that Giakoumakis isn't like for like, but he doesn't weaken Celtic at all. He's still a very, very good player. And he really unsettled Connor Goldson and James Sands, who I thought was awful, to be honest. The whole Rangers defence was really poor, to be honest. But just, what Scott said, he's right. All through that team, Celtic have a very, very good squad. They all play for each other. They all play for Postecoglou. And they all look like they're enjoying the football. And that, as a fan, is what you want to see. And I'll be honest, before the game on Saturday, I thought this was going to be one of Celtic's hardest games. And it clearly wasn't. They were just far, far, far superior to Rangers, and already 5 points clear. And I've said this before, I don't see who's going to take points off their Celtic team, because they are, as I said before, they're just relentless. And I mean, the goals he scored, Rangers can moan all they want, but Celtic were just so quickly, speed of thought all over the pitch. You look at the second goal, that all comes from a long ball out. It's a free kick that's given in Celtic's own half. And rather than just think, right, we'll take our time about this, Callum McGregor's first thought is, Matt O'Reilly's free. Rangers players turn their back, which you do not do in football. They turned their back. O'Reilly's got the ball. One pass, splits the defence. Jota's in. Connor Golson's ball watching, and it's 2-0. It was just so inventive, so quick. Everything Celtic did was so quick. And everything the Rangers did was so passive.
Yeah, Scott, you're shaking your head. Do you agree with that?
Totally, and that's the thing that sticks out from a Rangers perspective. And I've kind of spoke about this a few different podcasts the past day or so. Rangers, see it 3-0. See in the second half, Rangers were 3-0 down, and see if I'd said to somebody I was watching it with, see if you take away that scoreboard, you would think Rangers were 3-0 up. Just how slow they're playing the ball, just how passive they are. Celtic are 3-0 up, and their first thought is get forward, make more goals. Now, we know how this Celtic team start. We know it's all about 100 mile an hour at the start, get that early goal. And if you keep Celtic compact to half time, I think you've got a chance. But Rangers just didn't have an answer, and they just didn't have anything for this Celtic side. And it just leads to this point as learning lessons. We saw this game in February. It was a carbon copy. And Celtic deserves tremendous credit for how well, but that was Celtic play one way. So to me, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst deserves a lot of criticism for not learning lessons, in my opinion. But Celtic were excellent. And
I mean, I don't want to sound like Stephen Thompson at the halftime days of the Alkmaar game here, but at 3-0 down at halftime at Celtic Park, what do you think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst was saying to that Rangers team, Graham, in terms of the mentality? I know obviously Scott's made the point, it's a carbon copy of what we've seen that night in February. And we heard last year as well when Connor Golson talked about the Hibs semi-final, the Premier Sports Cup, where, the mentality was, being beat. Is there a mentality problem at Rangers, or how do Rangers get themselves up for these sort of games?
you shouldn't need to get up for these games. They're massive, massive games. And if you're at Rangers, you cannot be as poor as that against Celtic or anyone, to be honest. I don't think it's a mentality. I just think Celtic just were streets ahead of them. And I actually felt really sorry for Marek Tillman. I think I've been impressed with him so far, and I thought he looked like a fish out of water. But I felt sorry for him. It was a hard game for him. I think for me, probably Rangers' best player actually was Barisic. And I mentioned this on a different podcast. I thought Barisic was the one that was getting forward and putting really good balls in the box, but nobody was attacking it. Again, Antonio Cholak has been excellent for Rangers so far, but he didn't really get any decent service. Ryan Kent, I'm a massive fan of. I support Liverpool. And when he was at Liverpool, I thought he was really good. But again, I think only once or twice I've seen him play well against Celtic. So I just think that some players, they shouldn't need to get themselves up for these games. But I don't know if it's a mentality issue or just a case of formation was wrong. I don't know. But just Celtic just looked so much better over the pitch. And I think Van Bronckhorst is going to have his work cut out now because I think they've got a massive game on Wednesday. But then again, Rangers in Europe are a completely different animal. They seem to play really well in European football. I don't understand why. But I think he's got to get more out of that Rangers team, and especially defensively, because for me, I thought James Sands and Connor Golson were very, very poor.
See what you're saying about the point you made about the mentality. I think that's an interesting point because Giovanni Van Bronckhorst could have said anything he wanted. The Rangers players knew they were done. The Rangers players knew there was no way they were coming back, and that's the mentality problem. And that's what I'm saying about learning lessons. The Hibs game, the 3-0, they were 3-1 down at half time. They knew it was done. They didn't do anything in the second half. The second half against Celtic in February, it was the exact same. And you see the same on Saturday. That's a mentality issue. But as you say, Rangers could go out on Wednesday night and be a completely different beat. Could probably go to Ajax and get something. But Saturday, you'll see that Rangers again against Aberdeen. Just that passive Rangers who walk the ball in the net. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst got it in his head that Glenn Kamara's a number 10. Now, Glenn Kamara's many things. He's not a number 10. And us three can see that. Everybody in the comments will be able to see that. So what's Giovanni Van Bronckhorst seeing in that regard? Because you're saying there about Tillman. Tillman's been really, really good. That's a massive game for a young player to come into in his first game, especially if he's getting played out of position. So how do you expect Tillman to play? You expect him, he's not doing what he's good at. He's probably never played there in his life. He's never played in front of 60,000 fans in right wing. So how are you expecting him to then be amazing? But he brought on Scott Wright at half time. Why wasn't Scott Wright in the team? Not that I'm saying Scott Wright wouldn't have made a difference, but if you saw at half time that the Kamara thing wasn't working, it didn't work in Belgium 3 weeks ago when he played it. Why was Scott Wright not in and play Tillman in the attacking midfield position and try and see what happens? I get obviously the way Rangers set up was to try and contain Celtic, but if you lose a goal after 7 minutes, what do you do from there? You're playing 3 holding midfielders. You've no threat going forward. And you said there about the lack of service Cholak had. There's 30 yards between the Rangers midfield player and Antonio Cholak. Of course, he's not going to get any service. Barisic was putting great crosses in, but Cholak was getting. I think he got one chance, and he probably should have done better with it. But apart from that, Rangers have nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Definitely. And I think we'll stick with Rangers before we'll go back to Celtic Real Madrid. But in terms of that game in Amsterdam, Graham, there's obviously you said it earlier, big calls for McLaughlin to maybe step out the side. He's obviously come under some criticism in recent weeks. If you're Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, are you bringing in Alan McGregor? Personally, I think McGregor isn't any better than McLaughlin at this point in time. I think his powers are on the way. I think you've seen that last season, that Ross County game where it was 3-3. I thought really culpable for that. We said it with Audrey. He was obviously out of sorts as well. I've actually seen some Rangers supporters suggest Robbie McCrory get a run in the league games, but I'll ask you, Graham, what does Giovanni Van Bronckhorst do in terms of his personnel, including the goalkeeper situation?
It's a tricky one because if you take McLaughlin out, what does that say? I mean, yes, he did make a few mistakes, but he has been decent for Rangers. I think McGregor, for me, I think he is probably the better goalkeeper, but it's a difficult one to decide. And it actually did cut. It did cut to a picture of McGregor on the bench, like after one of the goals, I think it was on Saturday. And I think he'll be thinking now, I'll be on that team on Wednesday. But it is a difficult one. But I actually do think he probably will start McGregor. But as I say, I don't know what that says about McLaughlin's form, but the rest of the team, I don't actually know what he's going to do. But I've said before, Rangers in European football are a completely different animal. I would actually think Rangers would go Ajax and think they could win that game. Obviously, Calvin Bassey against his old team, that's going to be fun. They've still got a lot of very good players. Ajax, they've lost one of their better players, Antony, at Man United, but they've still got a very good squad. But I think Rangers will go there and think, we've got a chance here, even maybe get a draw. I wonder if it's a chance Morelos might come back in. I mean, he has got big decisions to make, but I just think that he might just go for McGregor, which might be a little bit harsh on McLaughlin.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think, Scott?
See, the thing with McLaughlin, it's an interesting point because John McLaughlin's not a bad goalkeeper, but the problem with John McLaughlin is that performance has been coming for weeks, and it's not because he's been bad, but Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has got it in his head that he wants to play from the back with his goalkeeper as a kind of the new kind of goalkeeper thing of like playing from the back. John McLaughlin's the mistakes have been brewing with John McLaughlin for weeks now. He's been terrific in terms of shot stopping, but why have the board kicked a situation into the long grass? Alan McGregor gets substituted in the cup final with a minute to go. You're not telling me that wasn't like everybody thinking Alan McGregor was done. Now, I get Alan McGregor's obviously thought, yeah, I've maybe still got a year in me, but if Giovanni Van Bronckhorst wants to play with a goalkeeper with a ball at his feet, he needs to go and be trusted to go and get one. Now, he might have identified that he wants a goalkeeper, but if the board haven't backed him and they've said, no, you're sticking with Alan McGregor and John McLaughlin, I think that's a bad message.
Definitely. I think it's certainly nothing for Rangers to obviously be progressing. I think you've got a question, Graham, you just put.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you both, are you maybe a little bit surprised that Rangers didn't strengthen on deadline day? Because I think there are still areas that maybe needed a bit more work.
Yeah, and I think that's clear to see. I think it's clear with the fact that you're playing an attacking midfielder and right wing, and you're playing three holding midfielders who do essentially the same job. Yeah, I think that I was surprised. I was surprised from the point of view that Rangers have obviously got this money in, and it's clear that Rangers are missing a number 8 and missing a right winger. But why there was no news on deadline day? There was nothing that they were going to sign, and that day they're taking £150 ahead for Champions League money. So there's money there. So why wasn't it? And that's what I admire so much about how Celtic have went about their business. Celtic have had to spend a lot of money in the past year to back Ange. But Celtic know they're going to get that money back, because if you buy these players at Juranovic for 2.5-3 million, you're going to sell him for 3 times that if he turns out to be what he's been. So it's safe investment. So why aren't Rangers doing that instead of bringing in 6 players, telling everybody you're happy with the squad, and then none of them finish the game on Saturday? It's just weird. Just weird.
Definitely. I think the same as well, Graham. The fact that even you talked about Glenn Kamara was linked with a £10 million move to Nice. Again, whether that's paper talk to get, we've heard it before with all this, was it Morelos with a multi-million-pound bid for China back when it was vogue for Chinese clubs to buy players from Britain. I think even talking about Tavernier, if Tavernier was to get an injury, as I've seen it with Hart as well, if Tavernier's injured, Rangers are screwed in that right-hand side, because a lot of reliance is upon James Tavernier. And the fact is, I know that they've got that young Polish lad of loaned him back to Poland, who replaced Patterson, but they're now relying on the young lad Devine, I think, is it, to kind of be his understudy. Again, I still think as well the left-back situation as well. Barisic was had a good game, but he looks like a player off form. Young Yilmaz as well. Again, don't know much about him, but if you're relying on him to make a difference in the Champions League or in Europe or Celtic Park, which again he wasn't trusted to do so, and then in that kind of forward area as well, which Tom Lawrence, I think was a good signing, but would Tom Lawrence get anywhere near game time for Celtic? No. When you look at guys like James Forrest on that Celtic bench, you've got Hagfanovic as well, the new winger that was signed. They've got Maeda on the bench. Celtic's squad it's embarrassing. I make a statement, I don't know if anyone will be in the comments. If Celtic played probably that reserve, they're side from the bench, the reserve side. So even starting like say Seagrist in goals, and you're starting Ralston right back and whatever else, you've got Moy playing, Jens. That team would still beat Rangers team on Saturday there. I still think that. I think they're that much strong, and I think someone else commented earlier saying that they're such a unit. Again, guys can come out and out the team and they know their role. And I think that's massive credit to Celtic. And as I said, in terms of moving back onto Celtic for Real Madrid, it's a good segue there. I mean, they're going into this game tomorrow night with actual kind of optimism. Not actual, you know what, who knows, and maybe get a good referee decision. Celtic, it's almost that unknown. Real Madrid probably haven't played a side like Celtic. I'm not saying Celtic are amazing or going to be European champs, so a lot of people would like that. But it's, even Ancelotti said this is a worry for us going to Celtic Park tomorrow. This is actual. We don't know what we're going into, especially as you've seen with the atmosphere on Saturday. You've seen obviously in the season as well, or last season, sorry, when that 3-0 win where it's almost the Celtic fans were sucking the ball in the net, and I imagine they'll be doing the same tomorrow night. Don't know what your thoughts are on Celtic chances are tomorrow, Graham. What do you think for Celtic? Have they got a chance?
From Stephen Davis to Luka Modric, what a difference, eh? I think they will fancy it at Celtic Park. Of course they will. They've got that atmosphere that, you've had many players before, like Barcelona and stuff, talking about how the atmosphere at Celtic Park is very, very good. And I think European nights are completely different to normal league games. And I think Celtic will fancy this. I don't know if it's come out yet, if Kyogo's definitely out or not. But even if he's injured, you've still got Maeda to come in. You've got Giakoumakis to come in. I honestly think Celtic will fancy it. Whether they can win, I'm not sure, because that Madrid side are obviously very good. They have lost one of their better players in Casemiro, but they've still got the likes of Benzema, Vinicius, Kroos, Modric. They've still got quality players in that team. But at Celtic Park, if Celtic get that first goal, it will raise the roof off the stadium, and it will be a difficult game for Madrid. But I think that first goal is going to be crucial. But there's absolutely no doubt Celtic will be up for it.
Scott, do you see Ange setting up his side as if he was going to set up against Rangers? Do you think they're going to take the game to Real Madrid tomorrow?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a free hit for Celtic because, again, we know what Real Madrid are. We know Real Madrid, the defending European champions, best team in the group. Celtic have nothing to lose by going at it now. Obviously, it can work for you or against you. You can start out the traps and score early and see what happens. But I do think Real Madrid will win. But Celtic have nothing to lose. I mean, it's going to be a great occasion for the club and obviously the fans. Obviously, a great way to get back into the Champions League and that. But yeah, I mean, if I was Ange Postecoglou, I would start the exact same way because he hasn't changed his game plan up to now. So why would you do it? If it doesn't work, then fair enough. But you can't no try it because they're certainly able to do it. Now, I don't know about Real Madrid. I don't think Real Madrid are going to be a team that's going to play total football, but we know the talent they've got. They're a stacked side. But yeah, it's a free hit for Celtic because Celtic aren't expected to beat Real Madrid, but you would maybe fancy them against Shakhtar. We don't know much about what Shakhtar are like, and I've been keeping an eye on Leipzig over the start of the season, and they've not impressed me at all. They get beat 4-0 on Saturday, I think, for Frankfurt. So Celtic have a massive chance of getting out of this group, but again, big occasion, nothing to lose. Celtic have got a massive boost of confidence for obviously Saturday's result. So see what happens and take it for there. But Celtic's big games are the next 4, and then obviously they go to the Bernabeu in the last game. If Celtic get something, it's a massive bonus and tomorrow night. But the next 4 games are obviously the big ones because they're the games they'll really fancy their chances.
Good stuff. We'll move on from Celtic and Rangers. We'll all go up to the action from Dingwall on Saturday, where it finished Ross County 1, Aberdeen 1. And Graham, I'll start with you. Firstly, we'll talk about the goals in a second, but one of the main controversies from the match was Malky Mackay are really unhappy that Clarkson drove him round the bend. No, not Jeremy Clarkson. It was Leighton Clarkson with his challenge on Callum Johnson, his right back. What's your thoughts? Do you think that should have been a red?
to be fair, it got off for one against Kilmarnock when they should have had 2 players sent off in that game. And of course, they got retrospective action. But yeah, I mean, that's a definite red card for Clarkson. He's very, very lucky. It's late, it's high. It's a very poor challenge. And you know, this thing that I hate is when folk say players are not that type of folk. He's done it, so he clearly is. He's it's one of these challenges that you don't like to see. And I think he was very fortunate. It was very late. And I don't know if he's got retrospective action yet, but I think that might be one that is getting looked at because it was a very, very poor challenge.
I don't know if you can. I think because he's already been booked by the referee in the game, I don't know if they can take any additional action. But Scott, what was your view on the incident?
Yeah, I think as I read, I think it's a dangerous tackle. I think he's unlucky as well. I don't think he's trying to win the ball, to be fair to him, but he just gets it all wrong. It is a red card. Was he booked for that tackle though? If he was booked for that tackle, I don't think he can get retrospective action. But I think if he's been booked for a different challenge, I'm sure he was booked.
I don't think he can. Yeah, he was booked. I remember seeing him getting the yellow card. But in the game it was pulsating, Graham. As exciting as I know you could get in terms of the fans travelling up with their meal deals from M&S. You had the viral videos and complaining others were not on their seats, which we've all seen. But I mean, let's talk around Aberdeen. We'll talk around the opener on 88 minutes from Duke, and the finish was absolutely sublime. Don't you think?
Oh, it was brilliant. I mean, it's a great move. And I've got to give credit to Johnny Hayes. The guy's 35 years old and he's busted a gut in like the last 10 minutes to get forward. Decent ball into the box, but it's a fantastic little flick and finish from Duke. And then he takes off his shirt to show his physique. There's no chance I could have done that because I've not got the body for that. But, I mean, it was a magnificent goal. And he must have thought, like Jim Goodwin and most Aberdeen fans, that was going to be the winner. And it deserved to be because it was a great goal. And I think Aberdeen probably just about edged it, to be honest. But fair play to County, they never gave up and they managed to get the goal in the last minute.
Yeah, and they did through Oyam Akio, who, again, was a viral sensation earlier this year after they played for, I think it was FC Velour in Canada. We had that open goal miss. And then a week later, I think, for Ross County. But listen, this is probably a harder chance than one he missed. But do you think Staggies deserved that, Scott, in terms of, again, you look at the kind of balance they played, they both had 11 shots at goal. Aberdeen maybe edged it in terms of possession. And also corners, it was kind of 13-3, I think it was. But do you think that was kind of deserved for County from the kind of balance of play?
Yeah, I think a draw was a fair result. I think it was one of those games where nothing happened for the first 85 minutes and then the last 5 minutes it turned into the best game in the world. But yeah, the Aberdeen goal's a terrific goal. Duke, I've been quite impressed with him actually because I think the recruitment's been really impressive with Jim Goodwin. But that goal's magnificent. But Ross County as well, I know that points maybe haven't been in their favour, but they've not really had a bad performance so far this season. They were quite unlucky kind of their first few games as well. I think obviously Celtic scored late on the games, but they've not. I think they've been really unlucky not to get anything, but that'll be a big point. That'll be maybe. I think they play St Johnstone, St Mirren, and Livingston in the next few games. I think that'll be a chance for them to get a couple of wins under their belt because I think their performances have certainly not reflected their points so far.
Definitely, and I think obviously they've played both Celtic and Rangers, Hearts, Aberdeen. These are kind of 4 teams that, again, as a Hearts fan sitting here, I'm hoping that these will be the top 4. Hearts will above Aberdeen, of course. But Graham, you've seen Ross County, obviously, at first hand early in the season. Do you think they will be another top 6 finish for them this season, or do you think they'll just sort of maybe drop down a bit and take their time? But when you compare this to last year, they were in kind of free fall. Obviously, their COVID disrupted season, they didn't win their first 11 games or so. So compared to year on year from where they are this season to last, again, they've retained a lot of the squad from last year. I know there was a couple of players like Regan Charles Cook and Hungbo that have went to pastures new, but pretty much they've added some other players as well. Obviously at top, and Hawula and Uwara Edwards, but pretty much a good settled side.
Yeah, I mean, that first game at Tynecastle, they were absolutely brilliant, especially first half. They should have been probably 2 or 3 up, and they played some really good football. I was quite impressed with them. And they have been a little bit unlucky with the fixtures, with Celtic and Rangers, and it's going to be difficult. But I think they certainly won't be in relegation trouble. I mean, I think they do miss Regan Charles Cook and Joseph Humble, but I've been quite impressed with Awula and Edwards. Edwards is lightning quick. And I just think if they can get a run of games together where they can just get 3 points on the board, they'll be absolutely fine. But I think whether they'll be top 6, I'm not entirely sure. But I think they'll be okay. I think Malcolm Mackay's got to play some decent stuff. And I think if they can just get that, Scott's talked about the fixtures, they'll be looking at those games and thinking, we can get wins in this. So they've got a really good chance. But I have been impressed with a lot of the stuff they play so far. They do try and get the ball down, try and play the ball for the back. So they are a decent team.
Yeah, and you're nodding your head, Scott. You think they'll be safe of danger this season?
Yeah, I think the target will be just to finish 10th, and I think they're more than capable of that. I think the likes of Charles Cook and Humble will be big misses, but I think they're more than capable. I think I've been quite impressed with the way they've played. I don't think they've any fears about relegation. I really don't. I think they'll be one of those sides. I think they'll go on a 3-4 game win streak, and that'll just be fine. I think they'll be a team that will be hard to play against. I think they play good stuff. I think finishing 10th will be the target, and I think they're more than capable of that. I don't see them being in the relegation battle at all, actually.
And Graham, their opponents from Saturday will also be hoping to finish in the top 6. They're actually sitting in third on goal difference right now in terms of leapfrogging Hearts, our team. But in terms of the job Jim Goodwin's done, what are you making of that? And also even his handling of the Christian Ramirez situation, who could have been lining up for Hearts on Saturday. What have you made of the transfer business at Aberdeen this summer?
I think they've recruited well. I don't think Ramirez was ever going to come to Hearts. There's no chance that we're going to let him go another rival. But, I mean, I think he has handled it quite well. I know Ramirez put a tweet out a few days ago and saying, somebody make this make sense, and they deleted it. But I think they have recruited very well. I've been quite impressed with what they've done. As I say, I think Leighton Clarkson's a really good addition. And I think defensively look a little bit better. I think Richardson's done well, Stewart's done well. And probably one of the signings of the season is Majowski. I think he's been outstanding so far. 5 and 5. I think he's looked really impressive. A proper goal scorer. So they'll be looking to be up there challenging, absolutely. But I think Goodwin will be frustrated they didn't get the 3 points. You get a goal in the late 88th and you lose a goal a few minutes later. You'd be really gutted about that. But they'll be well up there. And I think, as you know yourself, Hearts having these European games to come Thursday, Sunday, you've got to think Aberdeen are going to take advantage of that.
Definitely. And Scott, what a difference a year makes in terms of this time last year. Aberdeen had crashed out of Europe. Obviously, Stephen Glass was under pressure. They had obviously Scott Brown, who was the kind of marquee signing, and obviously he left in the January. But now Aberdeen sitting on third, they've got a quarter final with a very realistic chance of making it to Hampden. It's things are looking a bit rosy up in the Granite City.
Yeah, last week I watched a game against Livingston. I was really impressed. I know Livingston went down to 10 men, but the clinical edge they had to just every time they went forward, they looked like scoring. I've been really impressed with Majowski. I thought even for the first time I watched him was against Wraith in the League Cup, and the Majowski just stood out like a sore thumb. Clarkson as well has been really good. I like the boy Stewart as well in defence. I think we like losing. Yeah, we like losing Ramsey and Ferguson. You kind of wondered, has there been too much kind of chopping and changing of the kind of squad? Is it going to take them time to settle in? But yeah, I mean, I've been so impressed so far. I think it will be between them and Hearts for third, as you say. But obviously Hearts will touch on them later on. But Aberdeen they've got a bit of depth as well. They can bring on a good few players. They've got, as you say, Johnny Hayes has been there. He knows what to do. There's a lot of players in that. They're a really strong 11, but they've also got some good options coming off the bench as well, which I think could be key.
Yeah, definitely. You look at guys on the bench from the weekend. Obviously, Morris they're signing in this summer. Obviously, Duke came off. Watkins, Duncan, who had a good loan spell at Peterhead last season, and kind of like Matt Kennedy as well, who's a good, he kind of knows the league as well. So they've got good strength and depth there. So I think that's, again, even compared to the Premier Sports Cup when you see them against Wraith, much kind of improved side from there. We'll move on from there and we'll go down to the Battle of the Saints on Saturday, where it finished 3-0 to St Johnstone against St Mirren, which again was a bit of an upturn in results. Obviously, all the predictions were kind of draw or St Mirren. But Graham, I've said for many times, Nick Clark, a great player. I thought he was great for Dundee United. joined St Johnstone, and again, good finish on his debut.
Yeah, I mean, he said after he left United it was good to feel wanted. Well, I think the St Johnstone fans were delighted with that because he was excellent on Saturday. And I think that was the surprise scoring for me. I did not expect that. I really thought Stephen Robertson and St Mirren were on a really good run, and I thought they would continue that. But St Johnstone were excellent. You know, they were very impressive. Nicky Clark was brilliant. And, you know, Dre Wright gets a goal, and the penalty from Graham Carey, you could have had two keepers, they weren't saving that. But St Johnstone were excellent. They really played some good stuff. And I think Callum Davidson would delight with how they played. Yes, the result, excellent, but how they played was fantastic. And I think for Stephen Robinson, that'll be a bit of a kick up the behind, or, you know, he'll be raging with that because they were on such a good run. 3 wins out of 3, no clean sheets as well. And then to go to McDermott Park and lose 3 goals, you'll be raging with that. But if you're a St Johnstone fan, you've got to be delighted with that because they were very impressive. And Nicky Clark, can't ask for a better debut than that.
Definitely not. And Scott, I think one of the things you've got, Cam Davison came under some flack this summer for kind of signing older boys and older heads. But I mean, how I describe them is they were kind of like discarded and rejected players, because you look at obviously Nicky Clark kind of discarded by Dundee United. You've got Considine discarded by Aberdeen this summer. Montgomery discarded by Aberdeen's after his loan spell there from Celtic. Hallberg was discarded in January by Hibs. Carey, who's obviously kind of made his way around a few clubs, same with Ryan McGowan, kind of older pros. You've got McLennan discarded by Aberdeen. Murphy, that was kind of discarded by Hibs. Dre Wright discarded by Hibs. So it's almost these ragatags with something to prove, led by kind of Stevie May up top as well. And it's kind of taking time, but obviously Cam Davison has had faith in what he was building this season, and obviously it's again a kind of justified result and kind of deserved result by the looks of it as well.
Yeah, all reports have played really well. I saw the highlights. Like, Nicky Clark's an intelligent player. I think a lot of people thought when he was coming through, he was this really prolific goal scorer. He's so much more than that as well. He's really good at kind of linking up play. I think he'll fit in with like Jamie Murphy, and I think Dre Wright's there as well. Graham Carey's a really good signing from the point of view that he's got that experience, but he can find a goal from 30, 40 yards out. See, if you're really looking for a bit of magic, I think Graham Carey's just about as good as you can get for a team of St Johnstone's level. I totally agree. I never saw that result coming. I thought that was we always have a wee thing as well with a kind of group of my friends. There's always a 0-0 in the Premiership somewhere. That had 0-0 written all over it to me. But so I was so surprised, especially around St Mirren were on as well. Like last week, I'd said about Curtis Main was coming onto a bit of form. I think they've been lacking a bit of a killer instinct. I thought like the last few games you've seen that they do have it, but they just didn't. They looked a shell on Saturday compared to what they've been. And against St Johnstone, it's a massive win for them. These are the games that will obviously like. They're probably 2 teams that will be kind of, again, sound like Ross County, desperate to finish 10th. These games will be key in that because you have to beat your competition to stay in the Premier League. And that's a massive win for St Johnstone. And again, a 3-0 win at home, it builds confidence all around the club. The fans get a lift. Fans get a lift as well with a player like Nicky Clark coming in and making his debut and scoring. New signings are off the mark as well. It's probably a big turning point for St Johnstone just in terms of building confidence, I would say.
Definitely. And Graham, from that result, obviously, which again, games is nothing to be kind of snuffed at. But where do you think their season will kind of go from here? Do you think after 3-0 defeat they'll kind of pick themselves up and go again, or do you see this sort of the kind of early form that St Mirren shown under Robinson when he came in? Do you think that can creep back into their kind of play and kind of the consciousnesses of the players when they take to the field?
I don't think so. I think they've got to put themselves up. That's a big job for Robertson, but he'll be, the last 3 games, you've just got to look at those and look at the positives in the last 3 games. 3 clean sheets in a row. As Scott rightly said, Curtis Main was picking up a bit of form. They just got to try and go again, but that would be a massive disappointment for him. Losing 3-0 against St Johnstone. No disrespect to St Johnstone, but they've not been great. Graham Carey scored a great goal at Tynecastle and obviously scores again on Saturday. But I think Robertson will pick them up, and they just have to go again. But that'll be a huge disappointment that they've conceded 3 really poor goals.
Talking about going again, we'll go again to Livingston versus Hearts. So we've got another 3 games to review in the next 20 minutes. And this is something obviously yourself and I, Graham, both being Hearts supporters, we'll hope you hoping that Hearts can go again on Thursday. But I'll have to start with you, Graham, in terms of the result. Where it was Livingston 1, Hearts 0. It's the last 6 games, there's been 5 defeats for Hearts. The only exception being that 3-2 win last Sunday. A week past Sunday, against St Johnstone. Go on, get in your soapbox. Talk to us about the game.
First 50 minutes, I thought we were fine. I thought we passed the ball quite well. We were dominating the game. I thought a player that I've criticised recently is Gary Mackay-Steven, and I thought he looked lively. And then David Martindale makes a formation change, and we completely fell out of it. That's a concern for me. There's a few times that I'm not saying for 1 second Robbie should be sacked, because I went on Twitter after the game, which was a bad mistake on my part, because a lot of people were saying Robbie should be sacked. The signings are awful, which I don't agree with at all. But it is a concern for me that Robbie at times does get out coached during a game. He doesn't seem to be able to change things, and that's a worry for me, and he does that quite a lot. I thought we were overran in midfield. I thought Halliday and Devlin were really poor, and I'm a massive Cammy Devlin fan. I thought defensively, Joel Nouble ragdolled us the whole game. We really missed that presence up top since Ellis Sims was basically given away to Sunderland. And I just thought, for me, I've said this on other podcasts as well, we are not a good enough team to be changing players for European games. You've got to start with your strongest team. The league is a bread and butter. For me, Alan Forrest should have started. Lauren Shanklin should have started. I would not have started Stephen Humphreys. He signed on Thursday. He's had 1 training session, and you throw him in against Livingston. I thought it was a poor mistake. And of course, Livingston's goal wasn't offside because Humphreys plays everyone onside. Again, that's not his fault. He doesn't know how we play. I felt sorry for him. But just all over the pitch, not a shot on target. We were just so poor. And I said on Twitter as well, my worry is if Barry Mackay doesn't create, we struggle. We really do. And I said this as well to you on one of the group chats. I personally think Hearts should have strengthened further on deadline day. I think we need another creative player, and I think we need our centre-back with Kai Rose being injured and Craig Halkett being out. So I do have a concern that, I'm sorry, but I don't agree with the fact Robbie comes out and says we've got fatigue. That's nonsense. You played 6 league games and 3 European games. That's just nonsense. We've got to be better than that. That was really poor, and I don't know what he does on Thursday, but he's got to change the mentality because that was awful on Saturday.
Yeah, before jumping to Scott, Livingston have actually played more games than Hearts this season, given the fact that the Premier Sports Cup. So, yeah, I'll jump on to Hearts in a second, but obviously, Scott, what was your take on the result? Again, we've got to give enormous credit to Livingston. David Martindale, a few comments coming in for him as well. Where people obviously saying they're warming to Livingston and under Martindale. It's Martindale's first win against Hearts, but I think Graham touched on it there in terms of made that tactical tweak, and Livingston were dominant in terms of the obviously players, the squad that he's brought on. Obviously, like say Guthrie coming on as well, who that clever piece of kind of thinking as well. Almost would have got a great goal, almost as good as Jota's, but alas for Craig Gordon. But I think you've got to give credit to Livingston. What was your view on the game?
Livingston were outstanding. I've been so impressed with Joel Nouble, and there's a wee story here. We managed to get Dick Campbell on my podcast last year, and I'd asked him about this boy Nouble because he was scoring goals for fun, and Dick Campbell's words were he's going to be top class. And since he's been in at Livingston in the Premiership, he's been unbelievable. He's got that. It's not just the fact he can ragdoll defenders. His technical ability is really, really good as well. He's kind of a player that can do everything, and he can finish as well. I want to kind of ask you something. Obviously, he's a Hearts fan, but see in terms of Robbie Neilson, I think Robbie Neilson gets a lot of criticism, but one thing that always stands out to me with Robbie Neilson is, see when things are going right, see when he's got a tactical foothold in a game, he looks like the best manager in the world. But see, as you say, see when he's outfoxed, he seems to have nothing. And is that a fair assessment? Because that's always what it's looked like to me. When he's got a grip of a game, he seems to know what he's doing. But see if something's tweaked and he can't control it, he's really got no answers sometimes.
I think I'll jump in first for Graham. Maybe probably agrees with me here, but he worries about the opposition too much. And I think we talked about Celtic earlier, saying that Ange Postecoglou will play Celtic's game, doesn't care if they're playing Real Madrid or Real Troon, whatever, right? They'll play the same way. And I think for Robbie Neilson, he tries to be quite clever and says, well, actually, we're worried about Newbley, so we'll put Halley in the middle of the park and we'll put Civic at right back because Newbley's something drifts out to the left and Michael Smith can't deal with physicality. So he worries about a team's strengths rather than Hearts' strengths. Like Graham's saying, you need to play your best team. At this stage in the season, confidence breeds confidence. This time last year, Hearts were on a good run and obviously kind of done really well. We had that win against Celtic first game of the season, which again breeds confidence. One away at St Mirren breeds confidence. Whereas now, because he's thinking too much, and listen, there have been injuries, which obviously Hearts haven't bargained for. And again, I'm led to believe Hearts are still trying to strengthen. Graham's talking about 3 players. I know they're in for at least a couple, which again, these players probably won't be able to play in Europe as well, which is a bit of a bugbear. But I think he is very, very cautious. And I think the issue as well is that say if Hearts are getting beaten, and we've seen this before at Ibrox last season, where he makes a change and then the floodgates open and it's 5-0 at Ibrox and he's worried, well, you know what? Listen, I've been beat. But I think it was Jose Mourinho said something, was it yesterday? I think he was at a press conference. He said, I would rather lose at one game 4-0 than 4 games 1-0. So, and I think that's, you know what, you might as well just go for it and change. But yeah, he's very, very conservative in terms of his approach. And yeah, sometimes I think it's like anything, when he's stuck in a rut, five defeats from 6, he's under pressure, and rightly so. It's a club like Hearts where
I think it's under pressure because you say there about him finishing third. It seems to be a case where Robbie Neilson, there's any bad run, he's under pressure. Like, it's not like it seems to me like the Hearts fans, I don't know, I'm maybe going to say something that you'll totally disagree with, but it always seems to me that Hearts is similar to kind of Hibs were with Jack Ross, that they thought it was dull and boring when it was actually, results were actually okay. But Hearts, it always seems to me like there's not much football getting played, but results were good. But I think when results don't go well, Neilson's just very quickly under pressure, which always says to me that Hearts fans are never really keen on him. I don't know if that's, you'll know better than me, but that's just what it looks like from the outside.
So I think John, you go again.
I was just going to say, I mean, you've just got to back to 2016 when they had that banner flying across, no style, no bottle, Neilson out. And that's, I've always said that Robbie is only ever 1 defeat away from people saying he should be sacked. And as I say, all you've got to do is go on Twitter after Hearts get beat and you'll see Robbie out. Yeah. And I think it was only about a month ago, maybe more, that Joe Savage was on Sky Sports News saying Hearts should be going to places like Livingston, like Motherwell, and winning. And we don't do it because Greg's right. Too often, Robbie overthinks things. He worries too much about what the opposition can do rather than what Hearts can do. And actually, if you look at 2 weeks ago or a week ago, that Zurich game at home is probably one of the best games I've seen Hearts play for a while in that first half. Yeah. We played with intensity, we played with pace, we created chances. That doesn't happen normally. And that's what I want to see Hearts doing every game, especially at home. But again, he changes the team too often. I know we've got injuries, but he changes the team far too often for me. And again, he'll do the same thing on Thursday. I know we've got injuries, but you've got to play your best side every week. And I just think at times, Robbie doesn't do himself any favours because he is far too passive at times.
I thought with the Hibs game at Easter Road, Hearts went 1-0 up. Hearts went 1-0 up early, and I thought Hearts should be killing this team off because I've not been impressed with Hibs at all. But it just seemed as if it was passive. There wasn't really that killer instinct. And as you know, Hibs get back into the game with that last-minute goal. It just felt as if there wasn't that. Like Neilson just didn't. He was happy with 1-0. Whereas to me, you're playing against a mediocre Hibs team. You should be killing them off, in my opinion. And that
it goes back to Neilson was then worried because Boyle came on, and that's it. He's worried because Boyle's came on, thinking, right, okay, rather than extenuate our positives, let's worry about them. And I think that it was going to be something which we're going to see this season. I think the signing of Xander Clark, which was a State of Scottish football exclusive that we brought to you on Friday, myself and Mr. Exclusive Dave Smith. So again, I think he'll feature in a lot of games for Hearts this season. I think there'll be a lot of Sunday games where he gets between the sticks. So I think Nielsen will do that. I still think there'll be this boy Humphreys will probably play the games of the weekend. Again, maybe another couple guys that will get signed. I'm looking at guys like Robert Snodgrass. I wouldn't be surprised if guys like him rock up to Tynecastle and sign for a 1-year deal. Probably start the window. Hearts wouldn't have done that, but given where they're at just now, as we say, Hearts are always, as Graham said, one result from pressure. But I think Hearts have to finish the league in the season. It's the bread and butter, the finances that are on offer, which again Hearts have obviously spent a big this summer in terms of getting Cochrane in, getting in Shankland. Like that money is going to be crucial. But Graham, I know you're about to jump on there.
I was just going to say, I know a lot of Hearts fans don't agree with this, but for me, I don't think Hearts fans realise just how big a player Liam Boyce is for Hearts. I know he missed his chances. I know he missed chances against Zurich, but his link-up play, his hold-up play, his vision to play people in, and since he's been out, we've lacked that spark. I think people don't realise just how good Liam Boyce actually is as a footballer.
He's tremendous. Like I'm a massive fan of Liam Boyce. I've been a fan ever since he was at Ross County and that team like the Jackson Irvine as well, who tremendous footballers. He'll be a big miss for Hearts. And I think we talked about Ellis Sims, and Ellis Sims was good. It's a bit of an unknown quantity as well. But at the same time, Liam Boyce was really key for Ellis Sims. I know Ellis Sims has done quite well at Sunderland since he's went down there, but he's got a big raw shoot to play off. But he's so crucial. And I think, listen, I think it was said on Friday in one of the comments that he wasn't the same player after that penalty miss against Celtic. I would agree with that in terms of his goal scoring prowess. But obviously got that goal against St Johnstone last week, and we thought, here we go, he's back. And then the gods looked upon him and says, right, you're going to be out for the season. And I think he'll be massive for Hearts in terms of that. But we'll quickly touch on it because I won't be on Wednesday. I don't know if you'll be on, Graham. But in terms of Hearts' chances against Istanbul Başakşehir, I think that's how you pronounce it. What do you make, Scott? Do you think Hearts have got a chance?
Tough game. Tough. I know a bit about Istanbul Başakşehir. I know they're not. I don't think they're as good a side as they were a couple of years ago when they won the Super League. But again, it's a massive game. It's a massive occasion. I think they've got a chance. I think would you take a draw? I think a draw.
I'd snap the hand off for that right now, to be honest.
Yeah, because I think the thing with Istanbul Başakşehir, you know as well as I do, Turkish teams are hard to beat home and away, and if you can scrape something, brilliant. But they can be so good at just picking you off, but they're also very hard to break down as well. So they've got that kind of mixture. Again, I think Hearts are now, the thing that worries me is they've so many injuries. And what is your best team? And I agree with you. I don't think Hearts are at a stage where it's like Celtic and Rangers. They've got the squad depth to rest players in the weekend. I don't understand why he didn't play Forrest and Shankland, because they're your two. Forrest, Shankland, Mackay, to me, as the three best attacking players. Why are you not playing them away to Livingston? Because they're more than capable. You can play 2 games a week, in my opinion. That they're not at a stage where they've played 2 games a week in the past. They need to be playing every game, in my opinion, because that's how you build a good side. And to me, that was just a baffling decision. But yeah, but I think a draw would be a big result. I think a win would be a bit of a tough ask, but I think a draw they're more than capable of getting.
Yeah, and I think as well, from reading, I think they're unbeaten since March. I think I read somewhere else as well. It's 22 games unbeaten for them. Competitions. Yeah, I think I read that. And they're also the Turkish president's team. So yeah. I think he played in a game or something, and they retired his number or something, I'm sure I read.
I think his political party's got like a stake in them or something. I think there's definitely like that. That's how they've obviously got a lot of money. I think he certainly has influencers have got something to do with the club anyway, I think.
Yeah, and I think as well, obviously, the Hearts fans are going across to Istanbul. I don't think I'll be going, but yeah, in terms of the fans and that, they're all kind of well secure because obviously it's the president's team, so they're all well looked after, so to speak. But we've only got 5 minutes, but we'll try and do a whistle-stop tour of the last 2 games. We'll start with Hibs versus Kilmarnock, where it finished 1-0 to the Hibees after a Ash Taylor red card, and then Joe Neal scored from the kind of the resulting free kick via obviously a punch back out from Sam Walker. But Graham, what was your view on this in terms of Hibs side? Obviously, it's always hard to kind of gauge a side when they play against 10 men for 80 odd minutes of the game. But what was your view on the result?
Well, I will just say all the best to Lee Johnstone, who was recovering in the hospital. He'll be delighted with that result. I think they did deserve it. Obviously, sending off changes the game very early on. But Hibs, again, they had plenty of chances, but just didn't take them. You know, they had Harry McCurdy on the bench. He had a couple of chances when he came on. But I think Eli Yuan, I think he's a good player, but he's not a natural finisher. He misses too many chances. And there was a chance right at the end as well for, I think it was Bojan. And again, you've got to score that when you're through 1-on-1.
Bojan.
I think Hibs did enough to win the game, but they just didn't have that clinical finish on them, or they could have won that game by probably 3 or 4. And I think in terms of Kilmarnock, you know, disappointing for McInnes again, but you're down to 10 men. It's difficult Easter Road. He's got to pick himself up. They've got a big game against St Johnstone next week, but Hibs now have to build on that. And I just think their lack of finishing at the moment is hampering them a little bit.
Yeah, Scott, you're nodding your head. You obviously impressive win for the Hibees, but again, when you're playing a Derek McInnes side, it's not started off the best of sides for Kilmarnock, best of seasons for Kilmarnock, but kind of routine is kind of how you expect your team to play. Although Hibs under Jimmy McAllister will be wanting more goals against Kilmarnock.
Yeah, I think Hibs will be disappointed it wasn't 3 or 4 because they had so many chances. You said about Yuan, I think I've been quite impressed with him so far, but I don't think he's that natural finisher that's going to get you 20-25 goals. I think Hibs will be, I think they'll be disappointed they didn't see it out more and kind of score another few. But from a Kilmarnock perspective, I thought Kilmarnock were really, really good. I thought Kilmarnock were really good in terms of their recruitment. Like a lot of players they brought in, but they've started so poorly. Shaw and Lafferty have been a shell of what they were last season. And I was confused at their recruitment and deadline day. I don't think if you're needing goals, I don't think the solution to that was Christian Doidge. I didn't understand that signing at all. So I think Kilmarnock will be all right. I think Kyle Lafferty's very hot and cold, but when he's hot, he'll score. You know, he'll go on massive runs. Ollie Shaw's a decent player as well, but I think they need their strikers firing because I think that's the reason they've not started well at all. The game last week was they won the game, I think it was against Motherwell.
Yeah,
they won 2-1. They should have been scoring 5 or 6. They had so many chances and just didn't see it out. And they scored late. They scored really late on, but they had so many chances to win that game beforehand. And that's going to be big for Kilmarnock. But Hibs, again, I've not been overly impressed with Hibs, but Martin Boyle's a massive addition to their team. He's just brings so much more. He's that creative player. I just think I think both teams will be aiming for top 6, but whether they can go on runs to solidify that, I'm unsure because I think Hibs really need to get their strikers firing, and so do Kilmarnock, and that's what's going to be missing. That's what's missing for the two clubs right now.
I mean, another thing I would say as well is in terms of Kilmarnock, I think I said it on Friday's show as well, I think the middle of the pitch, they're not strong. I know Alan Power might have had a good season or ish for St Mirren. Liam Polworth, I don't think they work as a duo anyway. You've got Kerr McEnroy, who, again, is impressed in the Premier Sports Cup, but he's kind of not really been stripped in the last few games. I still think they need to recruit there. And I think the goalkeeper, I know obviously they had signed Hemming on loan again from Middlesbrough, but Walker, for me, in terms of the technique for the free kick, I think it's came in from Neil and he's punched it right back into the danger area. I mean, again, obviously, I was in goals for a wee bit before I was upshot by Scott Bain, who's, again, done not bad for himself, Scotland International, League winner with Celtic. But that's one of the things you were taught. You kind of get away from danger rather than push it back in. And I don't know if you've seen his dive after Neil hit it. It was just this slow motion. The ball was in the back of the net and he just dived. I think he might cost them a few more goals this season as well. I think, again, Zala Clark's not harsh, but he would have been ideal, I thought, for Kilmarnock as well in terms of what they're looking to do. And I thought maybe McInnes could have managed to persuade them to go there as the deadline ticked on, but he's now at Hearts. But in terms of the strikers as well, I agree. I think they've got 4 strikers very, very similar and identical, and Innes, Cameron, Shaw, Lafferty, and Deutsch. I mean, someone like Nicky Clark, I thought might have been a bit of a different option for them at Kilmarnock, but alas, they've went for the 4 big tall men. We'll see where that transpires, but we'll quickly touch on Motherwell versus Dundee United, where, by all accounts, Liam Fox, caretaker manager for Dundee United, was delighted to leave with a point and a clean sheet, and well boss Stephen Hamill was ruin his chance. I think it was 21 shots at goal or something Motherwell had. Graham, good result for both, do you think, in the back of it? Obviously, in terms of before the game, do you think Motherwell would have taken an 0-0 draw, or do you think they're up against the bottom side, they'll have wanted to win?
Great result for United, but if you're Stevie Hamill, you're going to be thinking, how have we not won that game? You know, one of the players that we always talk about, Kevin Van Veen, how he hasn't scored at least one is mystifying. The penalty, it's a decent save, but he should do better. He hits the bar later on. He could have walked off with a hat-trick. Motherwell had plenty of chances and didn't score, and that's got to be a frustration for Hamill because they were by far the better team. They should have won the game. But in terms of Liam Fox, you know, he got a win against Livingston on Wednesday. He's got a point, yes, on Saturday. He'll be delighted with that. But they were battered for most of that game.
Yeah, Scott, you agree?
Yeah, totally, yeah. I think Kevin Van Veen, I think he's done every single thing a footballer can do but score. Like, by all reports, he was outstanding. I've just saw the highlights and things like that, but I know a couple of Motherwell fans and they were saying Van Veen was unplayable in certain points. He just couldn't get the ball in the net. But yeah, I think on the balance, I think both teams will be actually quite happy. The D United, again, you've got obviously get the managerial situation. I think the one on Wednesday, I think will do them a massive bit of confidence. Weird to me though how the two, Mulgrew and the other experienced player that was on the bench against Celtic.
Tony Watt?
Yeah, Tony Watt, yeah. They're both straight back in as soon as Jack Ross leaves, so it makes you think, was there something more to that than met the eye? But yeah, big result on Wednesday against Livingston, and obviously getting a point against Motherwell. I don't know if obviously Fox is in contention for the job or whether they're going for. I've heard Michael O'Neill, I've heard Kevin Thompson. I don't know where they're at in terms of bringing a manager in, but they've got a really good squad of players there. You've got Ian Harkes, Stephen Fletcher, Glenn Middleton. There's so many good players in that United team, so if you can get a tune out of them, then you've got a really decent squad in your hands. So whoever's going to go in there, I think, has obviously got to hit the ground running because they've had their really bad start. They need to get results straight away because it's going to be so important for them.
Yeah, I think McGrath and Levitt as well.
Yeah.
Even that young, the Aussie left back as well. He didn't really start very well. But he's got a good pedigree as well. Won the Turkish league. We talked about that being as well, and he's a really good player. But unfortunately, that's all we've got time for. And apologies to Well and Dundee United fans. I know both Dave and Jenna of this parish will be unhappy we didn't talk more about the sides that they've got a bit of affection for. But that's all for tonight. Join us again on Wednesday. But until then, have a very good evening.